November 2025. Somewhere over the Nevada desert, an F-22 Raptor is flying at 40,000 feet. But the pilot isn't focused on flying. He's focused on a tablet mounted in his cockpit. And with a single tap, he commands a drone flying 2 miles away to change course. No ground controller, no satellite delay, just a fighter pilot and his robotic wingman. This wasn't a simulation. This was real, and it changes everything about air combat. Here's what I want you to think about before we go further. If one pilot can control multiple armed drones in combat, what happens to the pilot who flies alone? Tell me in the comments, because the answer is already reshaping how the Air Force fights. For 60 years, air combat has followed the same rule. One pilot, one aircraft, one set of eyes. The best pilots survive because they could outthink, outmaneuver, and outshoot their opponents. Skill decided everything. But that rule is about to break. The Air Force is building something called collaborative combat aircraft. CCAs, drone wingmen that fly alongside human pilots and fight with them. Not replacements, partners. And once you understand what they can do, you'll see why the era of the solo fighter pilot is over. But here's what makes this different from every drone program before. These aren't predators. They're not surveillance platforms controlled from a trailer in Nevada. CCAs are combat aircraft, jet-powered, stealthy, armed with air-to-air missiles. And they fly right alongside the F-22, the F-35, and soon, the F-47. The Air Force has already designated them as the first unmanned fighter aircraft in history. Let that sink in. Unmanned fighters. 2 companies are building the first generation right now. General Atomics created the YFQ-42. Anduril built the YFQ-44. Both flew for the first time in 2025. Both completed flight testing in record time. Anduril went from clean sheet design to wheels up in just 556 days. That's faster than any combat aircraft in modern history. And this is where it gets interesting. Last November, an F-22 pilot made history. Using a tablet mounted in his cockpit and software called Grace, he took direct control of an MQ-20 Avenger drone. While both aircraft were in flight, the pilot sent commands. The drone executed them. Real time, no delay. The system worked exactly as designed. And it proved something the Air Force has been betting billions on. One pilot can command multiple aircraft. So what can these drones actually do? The answer is almost everything. Strike missions. They can carry air-to-air missiles and attack enemy aircraft. Electronic warfare. They can jam enemy radar and communications. Reconnaissance. They can fly ahead and feed sensor data back to the pilot. Decoys. They can draw enemy fire away from the manned aircraft. And if one gets shot down, no pilot lost. No family gets a knock on the door. Just a $30 million machine that did its job. Think about what that means for a moment. You're a fighter pilot. You're flying into heavily defended airspace. Normally, you're alone. Every missile that launches is aimed at you. But now imagine you have 4 drones flying with you. They're ahead of you. They're jamming radar. They're drawing fire. They're feeding you targeting data. Suddenly, you're not a single aircraft. You're a formation, a network, a system. The enemy has to track 5 targets instead of 1, and 4 of them are expendable. That's not just an advantage. That's a completely different kind of war. Here's the question military planners are asking right now. If this works, do you even need as many manned fighters? The Air Force plans to build between 1,000 and 2,000 CCAs by the mid-2030s, at roughly $30 million each. That's less than half the cost of an F-35. 1/10 the cost of the new F-47. For the price of 100 manned fighters, you could build 300 drone wingmen. And those 300 drones could multiply the combat power of the manned aircraft by a factor of 4 or 5. It's simple math, but it rewrites the entire equation of air superiority. But there's one detail that most people miss. These drones don't just follow orders. They make decisions. The AI on board can execute complex maneuvers autonomously. It can react to threats faster than a human could ever command. It can prioritize targets, adjust tactics, and even sacrifice itself to protect the pilot. The pilot gives high-level commands. The drone figures out how to execute them. That's not remote control. That's collaboration. And it raises a question the military has never had to answer before. How much authority do you give to a machine in combat? Right now, humans approve every weapons release. A pilot or commander makes the final call before anything dies. But in a fight that moves at Mach 2, with missiles incoming and seconds to react, is there time for human approval? The Air Force says yes. The doctrine says a human is always in the loop. But the technology is advancing faster than the doctrine, and the pressure to let AI act independently is growing. So where does this go next? In 2026, the Air Force will select which CCA designs move into production. The first operational squadrons are expected by the late 2020s. By the early 2030s, every F-22, F-35, and F-47 could be flying with drone wingmen. The F-22 is already being fitted with tablet controls and gray software to command them. 9 additional companies have been selected to compete for the next generation of CCAs. More advanced, more autonomous, more lethal. This isn't a future concept. It's happening right now. The pilot who flew that F-22 over Nevada last November, he's not special. He's the prototype. Every fighter pilot who comes after him will learn to command machines as well as fly them. The cockpit is becoming a command center, and the pilot who can't adapt won't survive. Some people ask if drones will replace fighter pilots. They're asking the wrong question. Drones aren't replacing pilots. They're multiplying them. One pilot commanding 5 aircraft is more lethal than 5 pilots flying alone. The math is obvious. The tactics are proven. The technology works. The only question left is how fast it scales. China is building its own loyal wingman drones. Russia claims to be developing them. Every major air force in the world is watching what the United States does next, because whoever masters this technology first doesn't just have better aircraft. They have a different kind of air force. The era of the lone fighter pilot isn't ending because pilots became obsolete. It's ending because something better came along. A pilot who never flies alone. A wingman who never hesitates. And a partnership between human and machine that no single pilot can defeat. Somewhere right now, an F-22 pilot is practicing with a tablet in his cockpit, learning to trust a drone he's never met. The future of air combat isn't coming. It's already here.